One of the goals of this podcast is to provide a well-balanced mood and approach and information to things related to living and living with anxiety. But I realize that since this is such an intimate portrait of what I go through and what some of you share with me that you've been going through, and that's what this has become, it's going to be somewhat affected by where I am in my life. And that's never been more true than right now. I know things are going to improve for me, and these will be far more positive and more focused on some happier content and topics and discussions. As we move on, I don't want to stay here all the time, but sometimes life is difficult. I'm not sure when I'll post this one because I haven't been home for a little bit, and when I do get home, then I'll try to edit down. I have another one in the can. I think that'll come up before this one. And on control, I think that was, and taking a walk. But I wanted to update you and let you know that I am thinking about you all while I'm dealing with my own demons. A couple things going on. For those of you who haven't been paying much attention or haven't been tuning in until now, I've been dealing with overall nerve pain that has kind of taken me several steps back. And it's been a struggle. Not exactly sure the cause. One of the nerves that's going crazy is my foot, outside of my foot. And I've seen 3 doctors so far. I'm still waiting to see a neurologist on it. But it's an extreme pain and one that just can happen at any time. The other aspect of my life, and I've shared this with you in the past, has been the failing health of my father and my father-in-law, my wife's dad. And that's where I'm at now, is still at their place in Longmont, Colorado. And we're at their house, been staying here for the last few nights. We've been spending more time here than at home over the last week or two, helping out her mom, helping out the family. And we just brought her dad home for hospice yesterday, and it was a rough day. And we're still here today. Basically, sitting vigil would be the right term for this. For those that don't know, sitting vigil is basically a term used for being there and observing and being part of the dying process. It's a hard process. It's a hard process to talk about for many of us. But I want to be open with you on this as much as I can on anything. But I also want to protect his privacy and what he's going through and not make what's happening there as part of my podcast. So I'm not going to share with you the details of that. And I haven't in the past. I've just mentioned that my father-in-law's health has been failing, but we're down within the next week, would be our guess. And so we're just trying to make him comfortable and try to spend time with family and do that kind of thing. It's a hard process, though. It's a hard process. For so many of us, we've been through this. Most of us have been through this at some point in our life, depending on your age. And either you lost a grandparent, or lost a parent, or lost a sibling, or lost a loved one, or a child. That's part of life. Coming to terms with that, coming to acceptance with that can be very trying. Even with the pain, I just going to do the best I can. And so I'm up here doing that. I'm keeping some medication on it, and I'm also doing a lot of stretching, and my back's hurting too, and just my whole body is just kind of in pain. I know this will probably pass. I don't know the cause. I'm guessing benzo related. I'm guessing COVID related. But it very well could be other factors. You never really know. But I do believe it will pass. And I just need to kind of power through it. It's just really bad timing. But I'm doing everything I can to manage my health so that I am there, so that I can focus more on what's going on here. But this is hard regardless. And actually, a lot of my symptoms probably are related to the stress and the grief and the anxiety that you deal with when you're dealing with end-of-life situations. Again, I'm not trying to be all negative on this show. It's just where I happen to be right now, and I want to share that with you. We all go through this at some point in our lives. Many of you who have listened to me for some time know I lost my parents a couple of years ago. I lost 2 cousins to COVID. I lost a good friend to benzos. Could not handle withdrawal anymore only a few months ago. And now I'm losing my father-in-law, who I'm very close to, and my wife is very close to. And it's almost as close as I was to my parents. So it's a lot in a 2.5, 3-year period. And it builds up, and it manifests itself sometimes in physical symptoms, and I'm sure that's part of what's going on. But we do the best we can. We keep taking a step forward, and we manage it. And we remember what we are grateful for. My father-in-law is surrounded by his entire family out of here. In fact, one of his grandsons is flying in today to see him. And he has 3 children, their spouses, other kids around, and that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. You couldn't ask for more support or a more loving environment, and I've been accepted into this family and become part of them now for 27, 28 years, and I am so grateful that I get to be part of that. I was watching a movie laying here in bed this morning, woke up at 4 a.m. and watched the second half of Yesterday. Many of you have probably seen that. That's where I think Hamish Patel, I think that's the actor's name, Hamish. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he's suddenly gets shifted to an alternate dimension or something where the Beatles didn't exist, and he starts singing the Beatles songs and becomes incredibly famous for doing so. But at the end, and spoiler warning here if you haven't seen the movie, just want to give you a spoiler warning. Somebody gives him an address, and he drives out into the middle of the English countryside and visits with John Lennon, who in this dimension is still alive at some 78 years old. Didn't have a career in music, but instead was more of a sailor, but had a very happy existence. And they talk for a little bit. And John shares with them 2 key elements that kind of stuck with me. The first was the main character was sharing about the girl that got away. And the first thing that John said was, go get her. I think that's pretty good advice. I got her 28 years ago, and I ain't letting go. More than anything, that has made my life meaningful, joyful, and worth living. The second thing he said was, be honest and truthful as much as you possibly can. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that was the general sentiment. And I think that's good advice too. And with this podcast, that's my primary goal here, is to be honest and truthful and share with you what I'm going through, what others have shared with me going through, and what I think might help us get through. That's really the focus here. And I thought that was good advice, and it really stuck with me, and I've been kind of carrying that around so far this morning. I just thought I'd mention that to you. That movie gets me, and sometimes when a movie hits me just right, I know we all have different tastes in movies, but as a former screenwriter myself, I guess I was a screenwriter for several years and taught screenwriting at college. Far more success, I believe, as a teacher of screenwriting than I was as a screenwriter. But this movie, when I first saw it, really hit me as a well done movie and just a well written movie. And so I watched the credits and to see who wrote it. And it just happened to be by my favorite screenwriter. Richard Curtis did the screenplay for this, and he also did some amazing work, a lot of rom-coms, romantic comedies, which I grew up loving. My mom was a huge fan of romantic comedies, and so he wrote some of the best ones in my book, and he's been just an incredible screenwriter. And for some reason, I didn't even think that this was him, but it just stuck with me, and it made me feel good and gave me a tingle that he was the one who wrote that, and I've always been a fan of his work. But I thought it was so well put together, and the music and just the storyline of what the main character goes through, and I thought it was a beautiful story. So I wanted to share that message with you a little bit. I think a lot of us have this dream, that chasing. We're chasing success, we're chasing money, we're chasing meaning, we're chasing fame, we're chasing the dream, that alternate life that we could be living, where we would be really happy. And I think so often we miss the life we are living, and we miss accepting it as it is, and accepting the joy and being in the moment and realizing you already are pretty happy. I'm guilty of that. I've been guilty of that for some time. Even this podcast, even my podcasts and other work I've done, even being a screenwriter, was taking my stab at a legacy. It was taking my chance at maybe finding some success. I don't think of myself as very successful in the realms of career. I've been all over the map and have not been producing anything of any monetary value in the last few years, any significant monetary value. But I do know I've been providing other value to people, and many of you have shared that with me, and which is, in my core, I know is so much more meaningful than being successful by our society's standards. But I still think many of us do have that yearning to leave your mark, to leave a legacy, to have that one thing that really works out for you and people recognize you for. I have that. I think we all have that. But then I stop and look at my father-in-law. He was never famous. He worked a government job for many years, retired with pension, worked another job for another 20 years part-time, even in retirement, stayed active, was healthy right up until almost the very end. And he is now surrounded by his family, joking and laughing and crying and sharing things with each other that we hadn't really taken the chance to say until now. If that's not success, I don't know what is. And I realize that's what I want. And I have much of that now, being part of this family. And being part of my family. I spoke with my sister this morning on the phone. She's been calling to check on me lately, knowing I've been struggling. And she listens to this podcast sometimes. And I teared up talking to her this morning, and she teared up too. And I'm so grateful to have a sister who's still there with me now that we both lost our parents. And she's got 2 boys, and we try to stay in touch with them when we can. And there's some, family difficulties there that I won't go into details, but we still love them. But it's so grateful to have my sister, and I'm so grateful to have my wife and both families. I have my family in Kansas City with my sister, and I have a family here in Colorado my wife. And I think too to the movie, and when the main character, Jack is the main character, I think, yeah. When Jack meets up with John Lennon, and John Lennon lived to 78 years old, loved, had a love of his life through that, and fought for things he believed in, and had a happy life. Is that better than the life he lived where he was taken down in his prime? Who knows? Sounds pretty good to me. And yet we get caught up. We get caught up in all these other dreams, and I wonder maybe sometimes success comes when you stop chasing. When you stop chasing, you start helping. You start caring. And you start enjoying the joys you are surrounded by. Especially the relationships, the love, the friendships, the laughter, the levity, the competition, the teasing, the crying, the fights, the making up, all the pieces that go into a healthy relationship. So I think my message here today, if there is one, is treasure the people in your life. Have a little grace. And I've talked about this before, but it's important. Have a little grace. Don't be so quick to write people off. Maybe even renew some broken relationships, or reach out and try to mend a strained relationship if you have a chance. Trust me, as you get older, and some of you are older than me, some of you are younger, but as we get older, those become the greatest treasures of them all. Maybe at some point we need to stop chasing and start living and start loving. I guess that would be my message. I'm not sure when I'll be able to record again or even get these posted. It's not my top priority right now, as I'm sure you understand, but when I get back home and I'm able to sit upright for a period of time, which has been part of my difficulty. It's hard to edit when I'm not very comfortable sitting in the office chair, but as soon as I have a chance, I'll try to start to get these edited and get them posted for you. So just bear with me again. I ask for a little patience. And maybe, just maybe, reach out to someone today. Do one thing today to help build, maintain, or grow a relationship in your life. I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Hey, this is Dee. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out our podcast. I do need to remind everyone that this podcast is for informational purposes only and should never be considered medical, psychological, or professional health advice of any kind. If you or someone you know is dealing with significant mental health issues, please seek professional help. Resources can be found in our show notes and on our website at unevenpodcast.com. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch you on the flip side.